we had a client a couple of weeks ago, and he went out for his very first time ever going door to door. Huge mental challenge, really not comfortable, a lot of anxiety. He went out and he met a home builder and a realtor and got two estimates booked
Wow.
in like 2 hours.
Welcome to Jobbers Masters of Home Service, a podcast for home service pros by home service pros. Today we're in Las Vegas and we're talking about building out a door-to-door marketing team to generate more leads. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. Today's guest is Mike Gore-Hickman. He's the CEO and founder of paintergrowth.com. Mike, welcome to the studio.
What's up, Adam? Thanks for having me, man. Stoked to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. So, first of all, let's tell our listeners who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
For sure. So, like you said, Mike Gore-Hickman, founder of paintergrowth.com and host of the Painter Growth podcast. So, if you're a painter looking to grow your business, then just type in Painter Growth podcast wherever you listen to this and listen to it after you're done. We've helped hundreds and hundreds of painting contractors. So, basically, like the one-stop shop if you're looking to get started or scale up to 5 million, we got something for you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's get into it. So today we're talking about door-to-door sales, which for a lot of people is kind of scary. It's a scary topic. And so, but does it work? Does door-to-door sales still work from your opinion? What do you think?
I mean, yes, definitely. And it's not I wouldn't even say it's my opinion, right? It's from like hundreds and hundreds of contractors doing door-to-door sales all over the country, and just seeing the return on investment being so much greater than you could get from, say, Facebook ads or Google ads if you do it right.
Hmm.
And people have like a gut-wrenching reaction. A lot of people have a gut-wrenching reaction to the idea of like going door to door because it's uncomfortable. It's not like a comfortable thing to do. So it's half mental and half tactical. And you have to be able to get over the mental hurdle of it, and only then you can start approaching the tactical side of it.
Yeah. It's such an active thing, right? It's so much easier sitting on your couch at night and post Facebook groups and change your website. All those are very passive ways to generate leads, but door to door is about the most active, go out, you leave your cave, drag it home kind of thing you can do. And so that is that just the biggest hurdle? It's just like it's just scary and just a lot of work.
It's just scary. And it's a lot of work at the start, but what I wanted to talk about today was not how to go door to door yourself, because I don't think the average, contractor wants to go door to door every single night for the rest of their time in business, right? It's about building a system that can generate you leads without you actually having to continue to do it. And it's a lot easier. It's easier said than done, but it's a lot easier than you might think it is to get it to that point. There's going to be some uncomfort. You're going to have to go to your comfort zone, but you can get there. You can get to a point where your door-to-door team is bringing you 30, 50, 100 leads per month, basically what you need to hit your sales goals.
Okay, so let's talk about the nuts and bolts here. So when you say your team, are these people you hire just to do door to door sales? Are they your painters when it's raining? Like what are who are these people?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to go about it. Now, I'll start with something that we call warm calling or job site marketing. And this is the easiest one to kind of get started at because you're going into a warm neighborhood where you're already working on projects. And the concept around it is basically you have a neighborhood that you're already doing work in. You put a lawn sign up, hopefully. Maybe you add on some other marketing, like you throw some flyers up the day before. And then either yourself, you and your partner, or you and your painters, you just go and knock the neighborhood real quick. Hey, we're doing some work in your area. Are you thinking about having any work done, painting done, right? Whatever your
Hmm.
service of choice is. And doing the first couple of doors, like you'll get a rush. It's kind of uncomfortable, but you'll realize really quickly that it's not that scary. People are typically pretty nice, and if they're not nice, then you're probably in the wrong area. So,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
the right neighborhood is a whole discussion in and of itself.
Mm. Well, let's go there. So, how do you choose a neighborhood? I mean, you said the ones you're already working in. So, I've heard this idea over years, and so one variation I've heard is like before you start the job that morning, you go knock on Miss Nancy's door next door and say, "Hey, we're gonna be making some noise, right? If it's too loud, come get me."
Yeah, where can I
And you're
park my car?
yeah, and you're hoping that they say, "Well, paint my house too," right? So, similar idea where you just go around, knock on the door, the five doors around the house you're working on before you start the job. Is that what you're saying?
5 or 50.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So the way that you just described it, where can I park my car? Hope we're not making any noise. That's an ideal approach if you're in like a non-soliciting area. It's like, hey,
Mm,
where can I park my car? Don't want to park in your spot. Okay, sounds good. Hey, by the way, right? Are you thinking about having any painting? Do you need
mhm.
any, gutters cleaned or whatever you're doing? That's if you're in a non-solicitation area. But I mean, a lot of places are final solicitation, and so I recommend kind of the between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock window in the evening. because that's when most people are home, and it's the end of the day, and you can just see if anyone else is thinking about painting.
And that's a really important note because it's a lot easier on your mental state to knock on doors when no one's home because you're like, oh, they weren't home, they weren't home, they weren't home. But before between 4 and 7, you're expecting way more people to be home to actually talk to people because the whole point is to generate leads, not to knock and run away.
For sure. Yeah, you want to generate leads and you'll make a lot of connections. We had a client a couple of weeks ago and he went out for his very first time ever going door to door, huge mental challenge, really not comfortable, a lot of anxiety. He went out and he met a home builder and a realtor and got 2 estimates booked
Wow.
in like 2 hours. And it's like, wow, this could actually turn into a lot of business. Now imagine if you did that even once a week for an
Hmm.
entire year, it would potentially change the outcome of your business.
Okay, that's a good segue. So the purpose of the door knocking is what? To generate a lead or close a deal.
So definitely generate a lead
Okay.
or preferably book an estimate. Right.
Okay.
So
Explain that.
the difference between a lead and an estimate is obviously an estimate is scheduled. You have a date in the future to go to their home. If you just have a lead, now you have to convert that lead into an estimate. It's a lot easier to get a lead than to get an estimate. And the economics of it are actually very favorable when it comes to paying for someone to go out and get you leads. I'm just going to go painting for an example. If your average job size is $5,000, okay, and you want to keep your cost of marketing below 10%, which is $500, that means you can pay $500 per a job, right? If you close one out of three estimates, now you can, what is that, $166 per estimate that you can pay. So on average, a marketer, once they're trained up, can get about one estimate per hour. So that means every hour you can pay them up to $166. So
Not
you
bad.
could pay them $40 an hour base and $100 an estimate. And as long as they get that one estimate per hour and you close one out of three around your average job size, you're going to be in the green. You don't have to pay that much. You can pay $20 an hour base and $50 an estimate. But even then, they could make $70 an hour, $120 an hour. And all of a sudden, you don't have to just hire a student. You can hire a professional. You can hire someone who sells cars during the day, a professional salesperson.
Hmm.
They're going to make $70 an hour as long as they get one estimate per hour. And they're going to represent your company way better.
Is that your suggestion? Is to hire people completely outside of the painting world, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend hiring for personality and specifically first impression,
Mm,
right? Because they're gonna that's what their job is first impression. They're gonna go out and do 200 first
that's a
impressions,
great point.
right? So the skill doesn't really matter. Teaching a few things about whatever your trade is pretty simple, but you can't teach first impression. You can't teach get up and go. So if I were to classify the top two important skills that they need to have or traits, one would be that first impression. Are they happy? Are they, you just feel good when you talk to them?
Hmm.
And then two, are they motivated for money? They
Mm,
need to be hungry for money because they can make a lot of money, but they do need to be at some level self-driven, right? You
yeah,
can manage them, you can deploy them, you can tell them where to go, when to go. But if they're not self-driven and they're not motivated and they go out and they get skunked one night,
they'll quit.
they'll quit. They might not show up the next day.
I met my first door sales guy. He was working for pest control, and we all know pest control is on the rise. And this guy was paying for medical school by door knocking all summer long. He was making that much money. I was like, man, let me see your flyer thing. He had his whole laminated sheet, which is another thing I want to get to. What do you equip these people with? What kind of marketing collateral, flyers, business cards? Like what kind of stuff do they have in
Mhm.
their quiver of arrows, so to
For
speak?
sure. A really important metric, you don't really necessarily track it, but you can kind of get a good sense if it's good or bad, is your door open rate. How many people are actually answering the door for you? So part of that is time of day, so you want to go in the evening. But part of that is, are you approachable? Are
Mm,
you someone that someone wants to open the door for, right?
yeah.
You need to be friendly. You need to have bright colors. You need to be logoed up. Ideally, you have a bright colored polo, bright colored hat with matching logos, a clipboard, and a lanyard. You can get a clipboard and a lanyard at Staples for like
A
$9.
lanyard. What's that for?
A lanyard with just a little picture and your name on it, like a
Okay,
name
gotcha.
card.
Name tag, yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta, the more official you look, even if you're a chuck in a truck, you're a one man show and you're going out by yourself, go buy a lanyard at
Mhm,
Staples. It
yeah.
is gonna make you look so much more professional and people are gonna be way less scared to open the door for you. So you knock, you take 3 or 5 big steps back. If they have like that little step on the front of their door, whatever, like the 3 steps leading up to the door, go to the bottom because you don't want to be a threat.
It's intimidating to be right by the door when
Yeah.
they open it.
You don't want to be there. You want to take a few steps back, Just be friendly, be happy, have a big smile on your face, and have the intention to be helpful. Because
Mm.
people like people who are helpful. So don't go try to sell them something. Just see if you can help them.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about pay. So you talked about hourly pay. Explain that a bit more because I think a lot of people assume it's just straight commission. So tell us about that.
Yeah, you definitely can do straight commission. The problem with straight commission is that if someone goes out for 1, 2, or 3 shifts and gets skunked, they get nothing, and you're going to lose that marketer,
Mm.
right? Finding a really good marketer and putting the time and energy into like recruiting them, interviewing them, hiring them, the paperwork, training them, all of that is so labor intensive. So retention is a very important metric.
Mm.
So I would prefer to have a healthy base where you're paying them like, like actually $20 an hour just as a base, and then a reasonable amount per estimate. And I like paying per estimate instead of like a percentage of the job booked,
Yeah.
because that
They
becomes
can't track it
it's
themselves.
it's not it's out of their hands. It's out of their
Right.
control, right? Pay for the metric that you want, and what is within their control. And if you can help them win, help them achieve their goals, know how much money they want to make, and help them make that much money, they're gonna love you. They're gonna stick around for a long time.
Okay, so I know a lot of our listeners have a lot of questions. Don't worry, I'm going to ask them all,
Yep.
people. Don't worry. So, but before I get to that, I like what you said earlier about tracking. How many door knocks do you make? And then how many people did you talk to? Keep going. What are those KPIs that you really track? Because I know in sales, it's all about the numbers.
Yep. The main KPI is estimates per hour. If you
Okay.
can get one estimate per hour, you're going to be
That's the
rocking.
goal.
That's the goal,
Okay.
right? When we pay a solid base, I'm going to kind of sidestep your question for a second, because a lot of people, when you pay an hourly rate like that, you're concerned about wage theft, right? Why doesn't someone's just going to go out? They're going to say they worked 5 hours. Oh, I didn't
You're
get
going to
any
sit
estimates.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, they're sitting in their car, just didn't even go out, right? So there's a lot of door-to-door tools out there, like apps and stuff that you can use. But what I found is free, and the best app that you can use is just Strava, Strava, Strava. It's a fitness tracking app, and it's free. They're going to ask you to pay for it, but you don't have to. It's just a free app. And you have your marketer just record their route while they're out and about, and it'll take their map and their start time and their end time and their total time, and they just send you a screenshot of their route when they're done.
Hmm.
And then that's how you can pay them. You can see like every single neighborhood, every single door that they went to, and then they can't steal money from you because you know that they went. If they don't send you the screenshot, they don't get paid.
Interesting. Now, what do you do about leads that aren't good? Like quality control. What if you
Mhm.
just get a bunch of bad leads from these people? Does
Yeah.
that happen or?
Of course it
Okay.
happens, right? So that's where number one, neighborhood is really important. So you asked earlier about neighborhood. The easiest way is just look at lawns and cars.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
the lawn in good shape, and do they have a decent car in the driveway? And even if the houses are small, lawns and cars, that's a very high indicator of a good neighborhood. If you want to go a little bit more granular, a little bit more scientific, you can use there's a tool on the USPS website, and if you're in Canada, a tool on the Canada Post website, where you
Hmm.
can go into each zip code, each street, each neighborhood, and see what the average income levels are.
Hmm.
So what I would do is start with the online tools, see where the good income levels are, and then you could use Google Map to actually drop a pin onto those streets to see the car and the lawn row.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and then you can deploy marketers in those areas. And what I would like to see you do is be the big fish in a small pond. Meaning, don't if you're in Chicago, don't try to do all of Metro Chicago, but like pick a little neighborhood that fits all of your criteria and hit that spot like 5 or 6 times in a year. You're
Okay.
going to create that brand recognition and become that big player in a small pond that everybody knows and starts referring back and forth.
So your target homes are getting door knocked every 2 to 3 months ish.
Yeah, yeah, I'd
Okay.
say around, yeah, 2 to
Okay.
3 months.
Okay. And you would say that that's enough for that frequency is appropriate where people don't feel like you were just here yesterday. That doesn't happen much.
Not really
That
in our
frequency.
experience.
Okay.
It's long enough apart where you're gonna get that natural cycle. Not everyone is ready for every service all the time, right?
Right.
There's a natural cycle to things. So you might not catch someone when they're at their specific, pain point or need point, but in 3 months they might be, in 6 months they might be, in 12 months they might be. But even if you don't show up, maybe it's every 6 months, they're going to hopefully start remembering you. And maybe in between door knocking routes, you throw a flyer, you have some really targeted Facebook ads to that area. We call this stacking our marketing on top of each
Hmm.
other. So it's not just the door knock in isolation, but they see your lawn signs because you're targeting this one area. So you're doing work in this area. They see your vehicle all the time. They see your flyers that you're dropping, your lawn signs, and they see you doing work in the area, so they're gonna think that you're everywhere, even
Yeah.
though you're just in that one area.
So do you give the homeowner, let's say they kind of act interested, but not right now. They don't want to book an assessment yet, but call me back next week. That kind of people.
Mhm.
Do you give them a brochure? Do you give them something, or do you just say, okay, I'll call? Do you get what do you do in that situation?
The goal, you should always try to get the lead.
Okay, yeah.
Always try to get that contact information yourself. And you could have a flyer or something that you can give them. That's nice to kind of like reciprocate
Hmm.
and actually give them something useful. But you try to get that lead. And if you have a CRM,
Right.
Jobber, you can
Yeah.
you can set reminders for yourself to call back those leads at different times and send them different types of email campaigns. Kind of nurture those leads over time. Again, hitting them now. You hit them in the physical world. Now you're hitting them in the digital world.
Something that I've really enjoyed over the last several years of learning marketing and especially website design is instead of asking the person to marry you the first visit, offer them a free PDF. The 5 things you need to know before you paint your house, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And so have you ever, I'm just curious, if you have you ever integrated anything like that into the sales cycle before where they're not quite ready to book a quote, but hey, we have a free PDF, anything like that or
Yeah. So I would call this like a long term nurture sequence,
yeah.
where it would be almost like a monthly newsletter, but it's not like a newsletter in the traditional sense. But we'd call it a newsletter, but every month they would get like a value email.
Okay.
Exactly like you said. 5 things to ask your contractor before you book with them. If you're in painting, like the top 3 trendy colors that all builders are using now.
Oh, that's a good one. I like
Yeah,
that.
things like that, right? That people like would want to click on. And these days, you can even ask ChatGPT to like come up with that content and write it
Hmm.
for you. Just go in and make it not AI afterwards. And
Yeah.
with the use of ChatGPT, you can make all of that copywriting so much easier. And the average homeowner would never,
Yeah.
never know.
Right. Mike, this is really great. I'm going to pause for a minute to talk about Jobber. So here's the thing. You're going to go knock on all these doors and get all these leads. And then what do you do with them? You need to have Jobber because Jobber, once they're in the system, they won't fall through the cracks. And then Jobber will automatically follow up with them. They will stay in touch. You'll nurture your clients to the finish line. And that's why you need Jobber. So if you're not using Jobber, you need to today. Go to jobber.com/podcast deal, get an exclusive discount, and try out Jobber. You will not regret it. How does someone get started doing this kind of stuff? What's the first few steps? You said in the beginning, take some of your people out and go knock on the doors between 4 and 7. Anything else in
Yeah.
terms of getting started?
If people are interested in like figuring out how to actually put together a special like package just for today, if you go to paintergrowth.com/jobber, I put together a door-to-door mini course with like training videos and templates and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So paintergrowth.com/jobber, you can get that. First step is, I would say, it's going to start a few steps back, and that's really start with the end in mind. What is your goal? What's your goal for your year, based on revenue? What's your average job size? And then how many jobs does that mean you need to get? From there, what's your close rate? So that means how many estimates do you need? And then you can break that down into a weekly estimates goal, right? So that's where we want to start. How many estimates do we really need every month in order to hit our goal? I have kind of like some math. If you need to do $100,000 in a month at a $5,000 average job size, you need 20 jobs at a 33% close rate. That's 60 estimates. And divided by 4 weeks in a month, that's about 15 estimates per week. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to do 15 estimates per week, if you're going door to door, that's about 15 hours of marketing per week. So 2 marketers going, 8 hours each. That, and if they're good enough and they're getting you 1 estimate per hour, that will be enough to help you book $100,000 per year at those numbers, $100,000 per month at those numbers.
That's great. Do you ever send out 2 people at a time for a competition sort of dynamic? Or
Love that. Did you go through my course yet? Yeah, so that's actually a great tactic. I actually prefer to, I know it's not like PC, but have like a boy and a girl go, or 2 girls. Girls typically get a higher door open rate.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just it is what it is.
Just do,
It
yeah.
is what it is, right? So you can have them, and it's also safer going in pairs, right? Especially if you don't know the area. So it's a little bit safer. You can have them go up other opposite sides of the street. You can get neighborhoods done a lot faster, and you can totally have competitions like that.
Okay.
What we would even do is have like once a month or once every 6 weeks or so, we would have a full like door to door marketing event where we would get all of our painters, whoever was into coming, and all of our marketers, and we would go and we would completely blast an area. We'd go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we'd meet at a pool hall after, and whoever had the most leads would win a prize. We'd pay everyone, we'd buy beers and play pool and stuff like that, and we'd make a whole night out of it. And like put people against each other, and it got pretty competitive. People like running door to door, and like it's pretty cool to get that type of like competition on something that's just going to help your business.
Another question I have is how do you make sure, I mean, accountability, right? How do you lead your team to make sure that these things, because the pool, the parties and the beers, all that's super fun and great, but that doesn't happen overnight. You have a culture where it's appreciated and valued. People want to knock on doors and generate leads and it's fun. How do you get to that point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, how do you get to the point where you have like a success culture, like a performance culture in your marketing team?
Yeah, it's a leadership question, really. Like, how do you at the top create this environment where people hit their numbers
Yeah.
and all that?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything else, when you're starting something for the first time, you're not going to be very good at it, right? And you're going to go, everyone here listening, if you've never hired a marketer before and you're about to go that route, you're going to hire someone, they're not going to show up the first shift. You're going to hire the next person, they're going to show up to one shift. The next person might show up to three shifts, and you're going to like learn a little bit. And hopefully, we can help you skip a little bit of that. First thing you need to do is try it yourself. And this is the scariest part. This is where most people get hung up, but you need to go yourself at least for a few hours, maybe two shifts, get some results, figure out how to do it, figure out what your script is going to be, and see that you can actually get the results. See that you, as the business owner, can get at least one estimate per hour. Once you are able to do that, now we can go hire someone and we can train them, right? You need to go out with them, make sure that you can see them be successful, right? Because that's a huge mistake that people have is that they just like, oh, I'm going to hire you to go marketing. I've never done it before, but there's this neighborhood, go have at her, right?
Mhm.
No training, no accountability, and never having done it themselves. So go do it yourself and then go out with them, train them until they're successful, till they're able to hit their metrics. When it comes to creating that performance culture, it always needs to tie back to their goals. They don't care about your goals, they care about their goals. So it's like, hey, Lucy, cool. What are you saving up for? All right, you want to buy a new car. How much money do you need to save for that? Okay, $20,000. How much you want to make a month? You want to make $4,000 a month. Okay, here's how you can make $4,000 per month. If you go out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from here to here, you get this many leads a week. You're going to be making $4,000 a month. Do you think we can get you there together? Cool. And then constantly reminding them why they're working so hard, why they're doing this. It's not for you. They don't care about how many sales you make. They care about what's in it for them.
Salespeople care about money.
They
Yeah,
care
that's
about
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's remember at the start I said they need to be like really happy and have a great first impression,
very
and they
hungry.
need to be very hungry.
Yeah.
So important.
What about as you're monitoring these people's results and you're making sure and you see you're starting to see patterns they don't like? How do you pinpoint those? And how do you say your conversion rate just isn't high enough? Or you knocked on so many doors, but no one answered really? How do you troubleshoot problems as they come up?
I mean, the biggest thing is diagnosing the problem, right? If you can diagnose the problem, you're going to be able to solve it. You mentioned two problems there. One is not getting leads, and the other one is not having doors opened.
Hmm.
If you're not having doors opened, you need to check your neighborhood, right? Is it a neighborhood that you've done work for in the past? That's probably the best way to pick your first neighborhood is like just look at your city. Where have you done a lot of jobs? Where were your best customers? Where did they live? Go knock around those areas, right? There's a lot more good people in there that you could do work for, right? Are you going at the right time? Test different times. Try the evening, try Saturday morning, try Sunday afternoon, just like test different times, see when the higher open rate is in your neighborhood. And then if they're going out, they do one, two, or three shifts in a row without getting an estimate or without with missing their goal KPIs. You need to go out with them. There's no other way to do it, but you need to actually just go out with them and see what they're doing. Problem solve it with them. I've actually had some people just have the marketer have their phone on speakerphone and just put it on their clipboard, so you can coach them from long distance. You don't necessarily have to be there, but you do need to do some coaching. You need to make sure that they are saying the right thing, they're problem solving, they're overcoming objections, they're collecting the lead. Even before that, did you actually do it first? Were you able to be successful?
Yeah, that's huge. So a lot of people will say, "But boss, that's exactly what I said." Well, if you recorded it and we listened, that's not what you said, right? We all know that you can say that's what I said, but you're not saying exactly what I told you to say. And as soon as you go in there with them or listen to the recordings, you'll very quickly, most of the time, know exactly what they're doing wrong within like seconds.
Yeah. Are they taking a big step back? Are they knocking loud enough and
They
using
banging on the door when they knock. My
yeah.
biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, right? Or are they not taking that step back? Are they not dressed professionally? Are they not wearing what you told them or asked them to wear?
Mm.
There's just a lot of things that could go wrong, but if you're there in person, you see it, it's going to be a lot easier to problem solve.
Okay, Mike, last thing I really want to know, and I think our listeners want to know too. What's the script? What's the first 3 seconds? Give us the script for the first knock on the door. They open it,
Yep.
and then what do you say?
So one way that I like to kind of start it out is ask them, "Hey, my name's Mike. I'm with Blueprint Painting. Have you heard of us?" Just
Okay, quick question.
"Oh, no, we haven't." Okay, cool. Well, we're just painting a home in your neighborhood right now, and just wondering if you were thinking about having any painting done this year.
That's it.
That's it. They say no. Like some people will say, okay, try to get three no's, but I don't think that's really important. If they're thinking about painting, great. If they're not, like just telling them again isn't necessarily going to get it. Like you might get a few people, but it's going to be a numbers game, right? As
Okay.
long as you hit the other things that we mentioned earlier, and then you also hit enough homes, those are the two things that are really going to matter, right? The just that first impression and then the numbers.
My dad is one of the best salespeople I know, and he's always said, if you're just pulling up rocks and see if there's a big juicy worm under it. If there's not, you put the rock back down. If there is, you're good, and that's what you're doing. You're hoping that you catch people in that mindset of yesterday they had a conversation around the kitchen table. I think we should paint the house, and then you show up the next day. You're not trying to arm wrestle people to paint their house. You're just
No.
hoping that you're just wanting to be there for them when they're ready.
And if you believe, and this is part of like the mentality of it, if you believe that you're the best show in town, you're going to give them the best results, not only the best, end service, paint job or whatever, but also the best customer experience and at the best price. If you believe that you're the best, then selling your services shouldn't feel slimy. It shouldn't feel dirty. It should feel good. It should feel like your mission is to go spread the good word, right?
Mhm.
And that's what you're doing is you're helping people overcome crappy contractors. Because when someone wants to hire a contractor, they pick up the phone, they look on Google, and they leave a bunch of voicemails and hope someone calls them back. You're helping them skip that whole process and just giving them a seamless sales experience.
Mike, this has been great. I really appreciate all your insights here. I'm going to try to break it down for 3 actionable takeaways here. Number one is hire for hunger. Make sure that your marketers have great first impressions and they conduct themselves well and that they are hungry. Salespeople have to be hungry. Number two is use the Strava app to track them, make sure that they're going the right places and they're not stealing from you, stealing time, and use the Strava app to your advantage. And number three is make sure that your team is presenting themselves well, whether that means that they're taking those steps away from the front door so they're not intimidating, or they are dressing properly with the lanyard, the name tag, and the bright colors and the hat and the shirt. Make sure that they are presenting themselves
Clipboard.
professionally. And the clipboard, yes. Anything else, Mike?
Clipboard or iPad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
iPad can work really good too. I mean, I've broken all this down. If you're like actually serious about doing this, I have a whole like free video series that I put together just for this. So paintergrowth.com/jobber, and you can go get like the videos, the downloads, the scripts, all of that absolutely free. I just really want to give you a good gift for listening to this and paying attention to what I have to say. So thank you for that. Or the Painter Growth podcast. A lot of good tips there too.
Well, Mike, thanks for being here. I think the impact you're having on your community is really significant, and your painters are really better for it. So keep it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. I hope that you heard something today that will help you build out your marketing team door-to-door sales. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. Remember, your team and your clients deserve your very best, so go give it to them.